All right, g'day, hi, and welcome. All right, I spent $8,000 to play my first gig. How much money did I make? Well, first off, I didn't spend $8,000 to play my first gig. I spent $0 to play my first gig. Except for, well, actually, I spent no money, but my mom probably spent a little bit of gas because this was back in Canada Day, 1998. 98? No, 87? Not 90, sorry. Yeah, it would have been 87 to 89, something like that. I'm not too sure when it might have been 1988, whatever. And it was back on the back of a flatbed pickup truck. But the sensational title has a point to it. I was watching a channel. I don't know the girl's name or her channel name. I know it's her husband has a bigger channel, and they're both metalheads. She does death metal and stuff like that. I know she's from Vancouver because she said she was from Vancouver, but she was saying how much it cost her to play her first gig and whatever. And she spent about, with the rentals and everything like that, about $1,300, and they had merch and they had all this stuff, and they made about $300 or $400. And I'm like, okay. That gave me the idea for the topic of this video is your first gig. Okay, don't try to make it so grandiose. Live down to your means a bit here. Get the gig for free, even if you play the gig for free. Don't get in the habit of playing free gigs. Get paid for your gigs. I mean, you can do it once in a while if you're just doing it for fun, but you're going to spend money to get there, your time. Equipment's not cheap, whatever. I can understand like charity gigs or just like, okay, you play like one gig every 6 months and you do it for free, whatever. You're doing it more for your own entertainment than anything. That's fine. There's no problem with that. You want to play a free gig every week, like doing the jam nights is one thing. But to play 3 hours, you should get compensation for it, right? Especially if you're going to spend $80 in gas getting everybody there, unless you live really close to the place, and whatever, you don't have to bring much equipment. So this girl was doing a cost breakdown she spent about $1,300, and two of the band members, her and another band member, basically split the cost, and I guess they hired a drummer, they hired stuff like that. So they were hiring people, they rented lights, they I guess paid the sound man, all that stuff. And they bought merch and whatever. And for a one-time gig, that's not too bad, but you shouldn't get into that habit. I remember years ago, when I went in 1992, I went to Los Angeles, and I'm over here in Quebec, so I'm pretty much, completely, they're way over there. Or technically, what is it? Sorry. They're way the hell over there. If I'm using my compass. But anyway, so they're southwest of me. We'll just say that. And you went there, and at the time in the 90s, it was pay to play. You had to sell so many tickets to play, say, the Whiskey A Go-Go, the Roxy, whatever, if you could get booked there. And it was really difficult for bands to do that because LA was a mecca for bands to go to and whatever. But that said, there was a lot of bars just a little bit outside Los Angeles that you could play and get paid for free. But it was just, because there was such a saturation of bands, it was really hard for people to get booked. And I remember talking to some of the musicians in LA at the time, and that's what they were saying. Like, it takes 6 months to a year to get a booking anywhere, and you have to sell tickets, right? So if you didn't have a fan base, there was really no point in playing live there because, yeah, you'd get the have the fun, but you couldn't play anywhere big and bring in a crowd. And if you didn't bring in a crowd, you'd never play there again, right? So you had to be able to bring in a crowd. So it was always smarter to travel out of the city to go to places where they were looking for bands, right? And okay, well, yeah, but we have to travel out of the city, so there's going to be a cost, you know what I mean? Oh, you don't have a house PA, well, we got to rent that. So next you're charging, $900, $1,800 for your entertainment, and the band's lucky if everybody gets $30 at the end of the night, right? But everything's covered. your ride there, ride back. Maybe they put you up overnight. You work out the details, whatever. Well, that's not how I did it. Back in the 90s, and my experience is this. Although I know, back in the 90s, I was playing about 4 nights a week at the height of it, for about a 2 year, 3 years straight. Uh, if you added in up to that point, from the time I was a teenager to 1995, when I was last in a band called Syndicate, it was a really cool band too. I wonder where we would be today if we were still together. We'd probably be, maybe not as good as Nightwish, but right up there with them, I'm pretty sure. The singer, she had like a 3 octave range. She was a tiny little woman, big, big, big voice, the most nasal talking voice ever. She was so bizarre. Poor Stacy. But anyway, 'cause we used to torment her a lot. But anyway, she was really good. She was really good. The bass player, he was from a band called Annihilator. They did that song called Alice in Hell. If you haven't seen it, it's a really cool song. He was in that band anyway. And then he joined us right after, because, he had a falling out with that band. And we were playing like 4 nights a week. And I added up all the shows at the time, and I was at about 275 shows just between that band and a bunch of other bands before. So I played live lots. And then if you add up just the, believe it or not, just the jam night things I've been doing in the past couple of years. Okay, the past 3 years has been kind of jam free because of, all the things going on in the world. But even there, I've probably done about 60 jam nights. I didn't believe it myself. I was like that was once a week for a couple of years straight, just doing jam nights, not every other week or whatever. Next thing you know, you've been on stage 60 times. It's like, and I didn't get paid for that. You know what I mean? But I did it more for the entertainment, and the gas was cheap. I could do the whole night. Gas there, because I didn't drink booze while I drive, because, whatever, just being responsible. I just drink a couple of pops and drink water. $40 I'd spend the night. So that was my weekly entertainment, right? So I'm not losing anything. That's back when I had my little CRV there with the 500,000 kilometers on it. Thing burned fumes, probably because it only ran on 2 cylinders, but who knows? But anyway, point is that I tried to book a gig there and it never materialized. But that was okay, because I knew eventually, there was a lot of musicians there that, were talking to me and stuff like that. And I'm sure every time I go there, there's musicians that, hey, are you in a band? Are you doing this? Are you doing that? And I'm sure the second I show up with a bass, I'll probably have about 10 band offers, what I mean? But the point is that the entertainment thing is one thing. Don't spend a lot of money if you're doing it for entertainment. The second thing is, if you're doing it for your first show, I've done the whole rent the lights thing and stuff like that. And be honest with you, it doesn't add enough to the show to justify renting that $300 light thing. You know what I mean? Most bars will have a little lights near the stage. They usually have it right at the stage. You can back those things up 15 feet. You know what I mean? So we're not melting all the time, getting a suntan from the stage. But anyway, I digress. But the point is that we would play out of town. We'd get about $600. We played a trio one night. We had to rent the PA, and we had to rent we rented just like one column of lights just for the theatrics of it. We got paid $600, 3 guys. That was a really funny gig too, because we ended up having to do a set over again, because we thought we had enough for the whole evening. And I remember we played one song and I was like, okay. I look back at the drummer. I was like, hey, what's next? He goes, that's it. That's the whole list. I was like, you're kidding me. So we ended up doing a couple of encores, played the same song, but we got away with it. The audience loved it. There was maybe about 50, 60 people in the audience, whatever. The bartender, he was slash owner, he was super happy with us. He says, you guys were so fun and entertaining, we're heckling the audience and with bad jokes and stuff like that, and just we just had a really good time with it, and it was a lot of fun. And then at the end of the night, when we got paid, by the time we subtracted the fuel, we were about 45 minutes out of town. My buddy's truck, so at the time, this was in the 90s, so obviously the fuel was only 45 cents a liter. Oh, the glory days. And, so, everybody kicked in, $10 for gas, even if it was a little more than what he spent. It's just the idea, they offered to put us up for the night, but we said no, we're going to head back. The light rental, the PA rental, I think was about maybe $300 or $200 for everything. So at the end of it, we still had or $370 to divide up amongst three guys. So that was a good return on investment. That was a good gig, even though if we weren't 100% prepared. And considering I had a level of musicianship at the time, it's like there was no excuse for not having enough songs for the night. But there we were, right? There we were. Yeah. People liked it. People liked it. We did extended versions of just about everything. Yeah, so, yeah. Every guitar solo was an extra, 45 seconds or whatever. A lot of fun that night. I'll never forget that. But the point is that was probably one of the only nights that we actually rented stuff. Everywhere else, like we would book places that had their own PAs. So that's a big one. If you don't have your own PA, go to the places. There's enough places that you can usually book that will usually have their own PA and stuff like that. Okay. Anyway, I'm going to run a little over time with this one. That's fine. I think it's an important enough topic, and it'll just save people from making a lot of mistakes. Not necessarily mistakes. I'm just going to rest this on the Mark Holcomb ham rail here, but it makes it a lot easier for people to. I'll sit over here. A lot easier for people to, book gigs and stuff like that if you don't have to worry about rentals. Because, like, rentals, you can,